Welcome everyone to all the listeners. This is once again your host Shailesh calling from and talking about from New Zealand World News Positive, which is all about bringing speakers from all around the world and actually having the real conversation, which is we call it real talk. And this our theme called Real Connections, where we bring speakers with connected people with real talk, real sharing of the experiences and real wisdom. So today I have got the pleasure to invite one of our guests, which is what a life journey that we are going to talk about as we speak about different speakers. Different speakers have got different life journey, but this is the real life journey that we talk about. So today I have the pleasure to bring a person whose life journey has actually making an impact for other people's life journey. So after experiencing her life journey, she's trying to put an relief, which is she calls it love your pain coaching. That's what she does. And what a pleasure for me to first uncover the real life journey of this person who is actually uncovering the real life journey of many, many souls on the planet. So welcome, Sarita. This is all the way from Australia again, and which is I have the pleasure now to know her, and what an insights conversation we had. So I am now going to invite her to this show, which is going to make to all the listeners who can listen and who can take the guidance. But actually, let's understand what is Sarita's life journey is all about. So welcome Sarita to this beautiful episode of ours, which is Life Journey of Humans under our banner called Real Connections. Over to you, Sarita. Tell us something about you. Let's talk about it and let's see what we can understand and what the world have got experienced with your experience that you are already doing a lot of things which we will go in detail once we start the conversation. So tell me something about you first, as who is Sarita? What is she like? What is she what she is today? And what has she gone through? So tell me something about you.
Thank you, Shailesh. It's a pleasure to be here. First of all, uh, I'm very honored to have this opportunity to share my life journey with your audience. And gosh, who is Sarita? Sarita is another 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 miracle on the planet, as we all are. We
Yes.
are all miracles in our own right. And that is what Love Your Pain coaching is all about.
Mm.
In a nutshell, what I try and get my clients to understand about themselves is that we are all miracles. We have a right to be on this planet and feel like miracles every second of the day. Um, I have come along in my journey
Mm.
to this day in time feeling like anything but a miracle, as we've spoken before. And, I've had my ups and downs and more downs than ups.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of wake up calls along the way. And
Mhm.
those wake up calls I've collected like nuggets of gold. And those gold nuggets have allowed me to appreciate life each time over. So I can now find my purpose and help others to find theirs. So I can appreciate that we can actually love our pain. When I started my business, people were saying, geez, I can't love my pain. I
Mm.
hate pain. Why would I love it? I want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But if we don't have the negative, we can't appreciate the positive. And that's what people don't understand. We need the yin and the yang. We need the dark and the light. We need the balance. The pendulum swings both ways before it comes into the center. We can't have just a left without the right and the right without the left. So
Absolutely.
we need pain to appreciate the wellness.
So let's all the listeners, as you can see, what a beautiful start. We all are miracles. So listen to these beautiful words and statement that Sarita has made today, which is absolutely, absolutely resonating with my thoughts that we are miracles. Big,
Absolutely.
small, little, doesn't matter. We are miracles. And then she went into saying that, okay, what is negative and what is positive? That's her perspective of putting and making you understand the realities of who we are as little miracles. Let's get into that a bit later about her analyze and the way she coaches and the way she uncovers. Today, I'm going to talk about first to start with is how to uncover Sarita's left and right positives and negatives that she has been through, gone through, and I'm going to talk more about it. That so, Sarita, tell me something about what was Sarita's mindset and what was Sarita was as a child, whatever you could remember since the way.
My goodness.
That will be
Sarita,
fun.
goodness. This is a premier event, would you believe, Shailesh?
Really?
Sarita's childhood has not been explored by anyone as yet.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm going to fast forward a little bit
Sure, sure.
and I'm going to introduce my book. Um, I have published my book, Love
Hmm.
Your Pain Coaching, has published Love Your Pain,
Hmm.
how I overcame, how I found myself after chronic illnesses, and you can too. So this was my first book published in 2019,
Right.
all about chronic illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
I've got my second book coming out this year on parenting issues, and my third book coming out next year on domestic violence. The reason I've gone into these books, which is Love Your Pain trilogy,
Hmm.
is because these books actually go into my life story. So the first half of these books
Hmm.
explain how pain comes into your body
Hmm.
using me as the guinea pig.
Right.
So the chronic illnesses book is talking about physical pain, which is what I am experiencing or have experienced in my own body.
Mm-hmm.
The second half of the book has actually got systems that I have created and used with my own clients and myself for
Hmm.
chronic illnesses. My second book will be a prequel that will go into mental health issues that I have experienced myself because I didn't nip pain in the bud when I didn't notice the signs.
Right.
So if we don't notice the signs, pain will get worse and worse. And of course, that was me. So I go into my journey, and that was my parenting stage. So
Hmm.
that's the story I'm going to tell the audience in my book of what happened with me. But also, I will have systems in the second half of the book on how to help other parents. So that will be the second book. The third will be the domestic violence, going now into the emotional trauma.
Yeah.
Because if we don't nip it in the bud, again, that's what happens. So, why I'm going into that, as I said, that's where my childhood started with domestic violence.
Mm. Okay.
So, as we said, my childhood has not been covered as yet by anybody. And we, goodness, how do I start? It's bringing up a lot of things already for me.
Yes. What I want to understand from
Mm,
a little bit of just nutshelling, like, okay,
yes,
why you progress this far with the books that you
absolutely.
put is a evidence that your childhood definitely was not that simple or that
No,
easy. But
no. So
but
at
in
the age of 6, um, I migrated over to Australia from India with my mother and 2 brothers. So I had a brother 5 years younger and I had a brother 5 years older. My dad had migrated over a year earlier.
Hmm.
So what happened is we migrated over to Sydney. I grew up in Sydney. But although we had migrated over to Sydney and I went to school in Sydney, my parents were very strict and traditional.
Hmm.
So what they would do is we would go to school, we would learn all the Australian ways, but
Mm-hmm.
then we would come home and they would say, shake all the English out of your bag. So
Okay.
we would literally have to shake our bags upside down and everything would fall out of the bags before we were allowed inside the house.
Right.
We were not allowed to talk in English at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything would happen inside traditionally in our own traditional language and culture. No, it was like we were not in Australia anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So we were literally living two different
Two different.
worlds.
Yeah, I could imagine. Yeah.
It was a disassociation
Mm.
between Sarita at school and Sarita at home.
Mm.
And a 6-year-old cannot understand that.
Absolutely. Yeah. But
At that time, I didn't even know how to speak English. I was still learning.
okay.
So what I was learning at school was one mindset, and what I was learning at home was another mindset.
Mm.
What's right and wrong, Sarita had no idea.
That's right. Okay. Mm.
So I just went with, okay, my parents must know what's right because they're the ones that gave birth to me. But then
Mm.
parents say teacher is God. That's what our culture tells us.
Yep.
So if parents are telling us teacher is God and we go to school, well, who do we listen to?
Mm. Mm.
Another contradiction happens by the same people who are bringing you up. And
Right.
then as we grow older,
Mm-hmm.
what I also had was trauma. And I didn't understand because what my brain started doing was repressing memories.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just find myself crying all the time and staying up all night. And I didn't quite understand why.
Mm-hmm.
But as I got to high school, I found that I was going to the counselor's office, spending most of the days there crying and telling her,
Mm.
I want to leave home. I'm not sure why, but I want to leave home.
Mm.
And at 16, I ran away. At the age of 15, I had actually met a person that I had started seeing. I met him through my dad's friend.
Mm.
And until that moment, life was okay. It was what we knew of it. We had the traditional culture that was meant to be what it was meant to be. Dad and mum had the typical dad rules, mum's a slave,
Mm.
dad goes to work, he's hardly ever around, but we accepted that.
Mm.
It was what it was. Again, in hindsight, it was hell.
Mm. Mm.
It was not the norm of an acceptable marriage whatsoever.
Mm.
And we learned that that is all negative programming. And that is not what norm should be. And that is not what you want a relationship to look like.
Mm.
Mum was miserable her whole life. What I know now is mum wanted to get out of that marriage all her life.
Mm.
She used to, I have now memories coming back
Mm-hmm.
saying to me, mum wanted to get a divorce from the moment we arrived in Australia.
Right.
Dad was out with one woman after another, and all mum was doing was cooking food for all of them.
Mm. So your observations and your situation and your circumstances at that time would have been absolutely not knowing what is norm, what is abnormal, not knowing what is real and what is not real, not knowing really because two conflict of education, two conflict of perspective, one in school, one in home,
Mm,
mixed kind of reactions and mixed kind of messages flowing.
absolutely.
How then you uncover your own strength in that scenario that hey look this is what it is but I am accepting as you said like we do accept a lot of things irrespective by default or by subconscious we do accept it and we only understand after a certain time that that acceptance was not really okay or that was not the really we should have done, that we have lost those many years or those many moments which could have been quite different, right? Having
Yeah.
said Yes, this kind of what is what I could understand from what you're saying. And I guess all the listeners are listening to this blunt fact of everyone's life journey when they go through, because some come with traditional baggages, some create baggages, some are,
Absolutely.
and
All
so,
baggages,
mm,
all baggages are created.
mm,
We don't come with baggages. We
right.
create baggages.
Okay, go
But
ahead.
you know what that means? If we
Mm.
create baggages, then we have the power to let go of them as well.
So true.
And that's where my strength came from.
Mm, mm, right.
So that's what I learned, that if mum was miserable all her life because she wanted a divorce,
Mm,
well, then she had the opportunity to get one. She
correct.
was now in Australia. She had the opportunity to get that. She's the one that chose not to. Well, that was her journey.
Mm,
I am now an adult.
mm,
I was had the opportunity to escape that lifestyle, so I
mhm,
did.
mm,
I did everything in my power. So at 16, I left home.
mhm,
I went to school one day and I said to the counselor, I am not going home.
mhm,
I
right.
just put my foot down. I said to the school, I am not going home. I have left with the backpack on my bag. My
Mhm.
dad has sold me for $13,000.
Whoa. Okay.
$13,000 he negotiated with his friend.
Mhm,
And he said to his friend that, he said to me, because I found out through this person that I was seeing
mhm,
that who later became my husband and father of my first two boys,
mhm,
um, that my dad has negotiated for $13,000 to marry me
mm,
to his best friend's nephew. Now, this is in Sydney, and
right,
we're talking not that long ago, so only about 20 odd years ago.
right.
So, these things still happen. So he took $13,000,
Mhm,
my value, and and I said to my boyfriend at the time, I said, no, this can't be true. My dad loves me, as any girl would say. I'm 15 at the time.
mm,
And
mm,
he goes, well, go ask your father.
mm,
So I went to my dad and I said, look, this is what I'm hearing. Is this true? Now, at that time, my parents actually knew my boyfriend, but not that we were seeing each other. They knew him because he actually knew my dad's friend, the one that had A, set us up, and then B, actually done the negotiation for
mm,
his own nephew. So he was um, double siding, cross siding both my dad and me
mm.
on whichever bargain he could do best.
Yeah.
You know, um, and so uh, and my dad just turned around to me when I asked him if this was true, and he goes, "Yes, we owe him a lot.
Right. Mm, mm.
That was my worth."
So how did you make those transition into your positive outcomes, or thinking that okay, this is my life, or this is not my life. I want to change it.
Exactly, exactly. So when he said those words, "We owe him a lot," that was my turning point, my first turning point in life. I
Mm,
decided you owe him a lot, not me.
mm, right, right. So,
That was it. Something clicked in me and said, you took the money,
mm,
not me.
mm.
You owe him a lot, not me.
So now tell me something like, this is a point where a human accepts or not accepts, but this is a reality of a human's situation, and you have got options to choose or what to choose in that circumstances, because there could be directions where you might say, okay, this is it. Now I'm going to go completely negative and I don't know what to do of my life, because that's not who what is been put onto me. Or you
Sure.
say, bugger all, I'm going to start my new. What
Yes.
was you did? How did you transition yourself at that point?
Look, I call myself a positivity addict.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people hate that because how can you be positive all the time? I'm not positive all the time. It's okay to be in a dump. It's okay to feel shitty.
Mm.
I do feel shitty. I do feel negative, and it's okay to feel negative. It's okay to feel, you're
Mm.
never going to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
But you've got to know that even if there's no light at the end of the tunnel, there's
Hmm.
going to be another tunnel,
Mm. Sure.
right? There's
Yep.
just no light at the end of this tunnel. Change your tunnel.
So this wisdom, did you got at
That's,
that time on your, like within your own self, you,
yeah,
this wisdom?
I think there's just someone watching over me.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
That's all I can say. Someone's watching over me, higher power.
Mm.
Um, when I was growing up, I was very, very religious. I
Mm-hmm.
was born in the Sikh religion,
Mm-hmm.
and I won national awards and trophies for competitions in the Sikh temples. I used to teach the religion as well. And then when all hell broke loose, when my parents found out that I was seeing this man who was from the same religion as well, they
Mm-hmm.
started to watch over me like a hawk. So dad used to drop me off to school before school started. He used to wait for the teacher to come to class. He used to be there before class ended. He actually bought an apartment or rented an apartment for his friend, this same friend
Mm-hmm.
that we talk about. So that didn't work.
Mm.
So he could watch over the whole school while I was at school. So
Wow.
I was being watched like a hawk. Again, this is in Sydney.
Wow.
Sydney, Australia. We're not talking about some, Middle Eastern country where,
Mm. Understand.
some Muslim girl gets tied up and never been seen again.
Mm.
You know,
Or not coming from those traditional religions or traditional way of life that you come from, because it was just there right in front of you in Sydney, unbelievably, unknowingly, that this
exactly.
happened.
Yeah,
So that,
absolutely. Absolutely. So, but absolutely. And then this particular day, like when they found out, um, and then they just turned around and they said, um, we're catching the next plane. And they actually said, we're going to get you married to the next person we see when we land in India. And they
wow.
had the plane ticket. And it's like, I don't think so. We
Mm.
owe him a lot. No,
Mm. Right.
no, you owe him a lot. And dad even said, he goes, well, when he gets his citizenship, you can get a house. You can divorce him and get a house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they get $13,000. The
Mm-hmm.
boy, who was 13 at the time, they were going to forge his birth certificate, make him look older. I
Wow.
was only 15,
Wow.
and bring him into the country, get him his citizenship, get me divorced with him, and then
Mm-hmm.
I would get my own house. Yay.
Mm. Wow. Thank God for that, that it didn't the way they want it to happen.
No way.
That
No
is
way.
that is really a true kind of a genuine.
Can
Uh,
you imagine? I am not the only one. This is not something that happens to just me.
yeah, that's true. However,
That's the problem in this world. Like, this is not a story that's independent to me,
no, no, I get it. However,
and it's not a cultural story either. It's a warped
no.
story
Mm,
to people who are thinking that this is okay.
mm, mm.
As I say, it's not the religion that's bad, it's the people that are bad.
Absolutely, 100%
It's
agree.
not the culture that's negative. It's not the country that's negative. It's the person that's negative. We need to
I
change the
agree.
person's thought.
I agree.
So yes, how did I become positive? There was someone watching over me, putting these
Mhm.
thoughts in my head, going, hey, it's just not, there's no light at the end of this tunnel. Change your tunnel. So
Mhm.
I went to school and I said, I need help. I
Mm.
can't do this on my own. I need help.
Right.
Help me get out of this disaster zone. I'm going to get married off to somewhere I don't even know, and I'll never be seen again.
Mm. Correct.
No, I need to stay here. So what the counselor did, she literally got me a monkey mask. I
Mm.
had to wear a mask, a monkey, a toy monkey mask. and sit in the bottom of her car so we could get out of this zone to go to a women's shelter. And that's how we got out of the area. So my father's friend wouldn't see me.
Wow. That's
That
interesting.
was the start of my life. But they didn't stop harassment. Dad turned up at school with a knife for the principal.
Wow.
Where's my daughter?
Right. So all these challenges that was going through at a very early age of your life, which is absolutely not everyone's experience, or not everyone has um, put into that situation at early, but there could be many people in your shoes. But this is something that I wanted to, I'm very much interested in the way you have handled, the way you have made those changes for yourself, which is I want to talk more about it so that all listeners can listen that, at any age, anything can happen, as we all
Absolutely.
humans are humans, and the humans' minds can change anytime and anyway. Uh,
Yes,
but you have a choice, as you said. We all
always.
have a choice. We all have a choice.
Yes.
So let's come to that situation where how did you then chose the profession that you wanted to be in at that age when you had so much chaos around you and so much unclarity, I would call.
Oh, definitely. Unclarity is a very good word, a very good term, because
Hmm.
what I've always said is my childhood was the frying pan. And what I ended up doing was actually landing in the fire with my then boyfriend, who turned out to be the husband. So if my childhood was, the frying pan of domestic violence, my boyfriend turned out to be worse.
Hmm.
Um, so he was pretending to be my savior from that life, but um, as soon as he got his temporary residency, he turned around to me. So everything was fine. He turned around and he said, "Look," he goes, "as soon as I get my permanent residency, which will come in, a very short time now, you can divorce me and marry my brother and bring him into the country."
Oh my God, that's
It's like, what on earth is going on? What am I, a pawn? I
hmm.
can just be moved around from one person to another to another. And this is the same man that actually told me my father had sold me. So initially, he's the one that saw a problem with me marrying someone for money to bring him into the country. Now he wants me to do the same thing for his brother.
Hmm.
But he had set that up even before he met me.
Right, right.
So that was his intention altogether.
Hmm.
My mistake on his part was to say no.
Hmm.
That was my first ever no in my life. I said no. And that's where the fire blew.
Right, right, right.
So I went from the frying pan to the fire. And he started abusing me physically, the mental abuse, the sexual abuse, the financial abuse. From that moment on, I never saw a grocery store. I never saw any friends. We moved every 6 months. So I couldn't make any friends. Every person we saw was his friend. Um, we moved all across the eastern states of Australia.
Wow. Okay.
So, and everyone said, "Geez, you've traveled a lot." Yes. So he could make sure that he had that control. I
Hmm.
never learnt to drive until we got to Adelaide when my eldest son turned 5. So we had to settle him into school.
Hmm.
But when our second son was born,
Hmm.
he, my husband at the time, broke his foot.
Hmm.
This is another story which I won't go into, but this was done on purpose.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, I won't go into it. But he basically said to me when he broke his foot, he goes, "Well, I'm never going to work again. So now it's your turn to find a career."
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
So again, this was my opportunity. And I said to him, "Well, you know what? I'm going to go into nursing."
Hmm. Hmm.
So this was my chance to actually do what I wanted to do and get out of this tunnel that I was now in.
Absolutely.
Change tunnels.
Changed tunnel. But this is fascinating because one is, as you mentioned, like it was not just physical, it was emotional, physical, financial, from all angles.
That's
Every
right.
all angles. And all the listeners who are listening, they might say, oh, my pain is big, or their pain is big or small. It doesn't matter, small, big. You can't measure the pain that you,
No,
but it's the pain that one person can experience only one pain and still, whether financial or mental or physical, and they will still be into the similar situation. Or some person may experience every single thing like you have done, or out of those four, five, they may experience only one or two at one time, or two or three at one time. But
absolutely.
no matter one or four or five, it's not about the numbers. It's about when you go through that situation of mental, physical, financial, domestic, all that things surrounded by you. And then you have to choose a path, a direction for yourself so that you can say there and not sit there and do nothing, but do something that will ultimately change the life that you are into today. So tell me something about the life that you are into today, this through with going through all the odds that you have been through. What's the scenario like now for you after looking back at your journey? How do you see yourself moving forward?
It's funny you say that. So, a part of my life, independently, my
Mm-hmm,
life moving forward is very, very good. I am currently single, twice
mm-hmm,
divorced,
mm-hmm,
but I'm currently going through court again
mm-hmm,
for custody.
mm-hmm,
As I said before, I went from the frying pan to the fire. What I forgot about is the steam.
mm-hmm. Right.
As I say, the fire shows you where it's going to burn. We can all see the fire coming.
Mm-hmm.
The steam burns without showing. It's very invisible. Unfortunately, that was my second husband.
Wow. And so you had first husband, you had two kids. And
That's
what
right.
about the second husband? Did you had kids?
I did. So, second husband, I had triplets.
Oh, wow. Look at the odds.
The odds were absolutely amazing, but we didn't stop there.
Hmm.
We broke a 19-year world record with my triplets.
Mm-hmm.
So, I after I finally escaped domestic violence from my first husband of 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
I was on my own for 3 years before I met
Mm-hmm.
Colin, my second husband.
Mm-hmm.
We were friends and connected spiritually
Mm-hmm.
very, very instantly.
Mm-hmm.
And we connected in every way, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and we became the best of friends.
Mm-hmm.
We got married within a year. And while we were still friends, I told him that, I wanted to have more kids, but obviously not with my first husband. So it was never going to happen, I thought. So I had actually tied my tubes.
Mm-hmm.
But I had seen a specialist, and the specialist had told me that it was going to be very simple.
Mm-hmm.
So he had actually said to me, well, I will help you. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, no, because I want a father for my children. I don't want just a sperm donor.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fine. He never spoke of it again, not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
We then ended up getting married. Like, obviously, eventually things happened.
Mm-hmm.
We married within the year after meeting, and we had 7 great years together.
Wow.
After 7 years, for about 6 weeks, he just ended up not talking to me, went completely silent on me,
Mm-hmm.
to the point where I had to actually email him despite living in the same house.
Oh.
He would not acknowledge me whatsoever. The triplets were 2 years old at this stage.
Mm.
And when I emailed him, my first question was, do you still want to be married to me? That's when he responded. He said, how dare you question my commitment to our marriage? I said, I'm not questioning your commitment because I know you will be married to me forever. My question was, do you still want to be married? I'll ask you in another way. Are you in love with me? He said, no. I said, were you ever in love with me? He said, no. 7 years of marriage, he was never in love with me.
Wow.
I said, thank you. I appreciate that because I felt it. I knew 7 years, it was all a fabrication. Again, someone watching over me has been passing these messages through to my soul, and I knew. In those 6 weeks that you've been ignoring me, I had got those messages.
True.
So we cannot be together. I don't want to be with someone who's not in love with me. I said, do you love me? He goes, I don't know what love is. I said, did you ever love me? He goes, I don't know. And that's when I said to him, no, I can't do it. So we separated when the children were 2, but we lived together under the same roof to raise the triplets for 5 years as friends. So still best of friends, still separated for 5 years until we separated, physically and got divorced. So this is still a short version, I'm telling you. You've got to read my books.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But certainly,
but what I'm seeing
separated.
is the challenges that you are having one after the other.
Absolutely. But so we separated, and last year I moved to Sydney with the children. So the children were meant to move with me and live with me in Sydney. He was meant to move to the country, New South Wales, because he doesn't like Sydney. So all good. Children were living with me. September school holidays. He's come to pick up the kids for the holidays. And then the day before he's meant to return them, he sent me a text message like about 10 hours before. So when he's meant to be halfway on the road, saying, I've sought legal advice. I'm not bringing them back.
Whoa.
This is after 15 years of happily living together.
My God. Okay. That definitely is a real challenge.
That is the steam.
And this is what people, go through lots of challenges, but they don't know the severity and the really problematic can be for a simple human life, for a simple mind, turns completely into unknown territory, unknown zone.
That's right. So ever since he's been completely brainwashing the children and won't let me see 2 of them.
Wow. Okay.
So this is since last year. So it's just completely switched.
And that's what you are going through at the moment is
at the moment.
Those
so I have my eldest, exactly. I have my eldest daughter with me, and the younger 2 live with him.
Okay.
So it's just,
they're all 3 girls, huh?
No, girl, boy, girl.
Girl, boy, girl. Wow.
Yes. Okay. So 2 of them, yes. So the eldest has severe learning difficulties. The middle one and the third one have moderate learning difficulties and other challenges. So they're all on the spectrum of autism and ADHD and so forth. So he can manage the other 2 a bit better. He can't manage the oldest one. So it was easier to let her go.
Right.
But in hindsight, he's basically married me to have kids. So if you remember the conversation I said to you that he would help me to have kids, that's why he married me. He got to have the children that he couldn't have. He was aging. Us women, we have biological clocks, but so do men. Because men need a partner.
Absolutely.
To conceive the children. He's an introvert. He couldn't find a partner in that time to conceive the children for him. He knew I was going to have the children. He knew I was going to pay for the IVF. Everything was going to happen. As soon as he could have the children, well, he doesn't need me anymore. I can get out of the picture. He's happy. The children are now coming to me because So what happened on the other side of the children's side is they are through egg donors, because we tried for 4 years through IVF. Could not conceive because it didn't go as planned by the doctor. So we had to go through egg donors. So now he tells the children to say to me that I'm not their real mother.
Right. Oh my God. That's another kind of a thing which is you are
Exactly.
dealing with.
That's right. So they're constantly coming up to me going, you're not our real mother. We don't have your DNA.
Wow. Wow.
They are 11. And they've been saying that to me since they were 8.
Right. So again, this is something that one never expects, and particularly it's one of those challenges where the kids don't say you are not my mother when they know, and the mother knows that they are my child, but they are not accepting it. What a
Exactly.
challenging situation.
Yeah.
Um, is there any other challenges that you have not gone through, Sarita? Basically, what I'll
Just a
probably.
little Just a little one. So the story that I've left last and not least is their birth. As I said, we broke a record, 19 years. So I thought I'd leave that to last for your listeners, and my listeners and anyone who wants to pass the story on. So Yasmin is my oldest, and essentially textbook pregnancy. We went to the specialist because of being triplets. We're always under a specialist. And 26 weeks, he said, yes, you can last until 36 weeks, not a problem. Go home. We went home the next morning. I had a doctor's appointment, and I said to Colin, can you rub some cream on my back because I've got back injuries? So I had a car accident several years earlier, so I had back injuries already. And I said to him, can you rub some cream on my back? He had to go grocery shopping. He goes, that's fine. I've got to go home and do the shopping list anyway. And so we went home. I had to go to the toilet. So I went to the toilet inside the house. He said, I've got to go. He went to the toilet in the shed. Colin has bilateral hearing loss. So in a tin shed, he can't hear me. When I go into the house, typical female will drop her bag, drop her phone before she goes to the bathroom, which is what I did. Now, too much information, Shailesh, block your ears if you want to. I went in and I basically went, I can't go to the toilet. What's going on? I knew I had hemorrhoids, and I'm going, these hemorrhoids are too much. I put my hand down and I've literally got baby's bottom in my hand.
Oh my God.
No contractions, no pain, no signs whatsoever. 26 weeks and 1 day.
Wow.
This is little Miss Yasmin in my hand. Bottom first. So I've just started calling out for Colin, knowing he's not going to hear me if I start screaming or doing anything else, because this is 11 o'clock in the morning and we've got kids in the neighborhood. So I just started calling his name, and that's it. He comes in after a few calls of his name and he rings 000 straight away, and he goes, I need an ambulance. I've got a baby on the way. They transfer him from 000, which is the emergency number in Australia, to the ambulance. And he says, I need an ambulance. I've got a baby in my hand. So from the moment from emergency service to the ambulance, she's already born.
Wow. What
she's
a
literally
story.
slipped out.
Yeah.
So from that moment, the ambulance took 4 minutes to come. They had to resuscitate her. She was 770 grams born.
Wow.
So just over a Coke bottle. When she arrived, we got 4 ambulances, expecting the other two to arrive, and one for myself. And but they weren't equipped, because ambulances don't expect babies that young to survive. So they said, we're going to take you to the nearest hospital, which is only 10 minutes away, as opposed to the major hospital where they're due. And the major hospital will meet you there.
Right.
But they said, expect everyone to be there. Every Tom, Dick and Harry will be at the hospital, because this is a miracle. For her to survive, this is a miracle.
Absolutely.
And absolutely every Tom, Dick, and Harry was there. We could not get my stretcher into the actual emergency bay where they had made space for me.
Mm-hmm.
We had the cleaners there, we had the general public there, we had absolutely everybody. The actual doctor had to get up on the benches and yell to the room for everyone to get out so we could get my stretcher into the room.
Wow. Okay.
I eventually had to get the hospital media to get involved to get the media off our back, to stop calling me because we were all over the media. Like even today, you Google salt marsh triplets and they'll be covering the first 3 pages of Google.
Right.
But so the reason being, because as soon as I got to the hospital, my cervix had closed up.
Mm-hmm.
The other 2 stayed in. So we got transferred to the hospital for another 8 days.
Wow. Wow.
That has not happened across the world for 19 years.
Wow. What a story, Sarita.
So
I mean,
19 years, the
yeah.
whole hospital generation changes.
Mm.
So that's a whole retirement for a doctor, a
Correct.
career. So no doctor has known about it. They're going, we don't know what to do. The doctors were fighting with each other. So
I
as
bet.
the
Mm.
as Santaj was born next, my son, and then Zareen was born. But as Santaj's labour started, they gave me an epidural,
Mm.
which they gave me wrong, and
Mm.
they killed me.
Right. Right.
Which happens, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't happen that they kill you. That doesn't happen, but they do the epidural wrong. But unfortunately, they killed me. That was my
Mm.
first death experience.
Right. Oh my God.
Um,
Okay.
first.
Mm.
Following that, they did obviously manage to bring me back. I'm here, thankfully, because I'm meant to be for some reason.
Mm. Mm.
Um, they brought me back. I think they said about 10 minutes. They were resuscitating me for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we all sort of had a good laugh, because I said to the midwife, I feel weird. And that's all I said to her. And then when we came back, she goes, well, next time, can you let me know something a bit more than I feel weird? That's just not good enough for us to know that you're about to die.
Mm.
But lo and behold, I died 6 more times in the next 3 weeks.
Wow.
So from what the hospital counted, I died 7 times.
Wow.
And they had to resuscitate me 7 times. But after the triplets were born, they
Mm-hmm.
couldn't get the placentas out. So they had to take me into theatre because I gave birth naturally, to get the placentas out. So they had to basically resuscitate me all night because I kept dying on them. So they lost count how many times I died.
Understand. Yeah.
So it was over 7,
Mm.
but 7 is the number they counted.
Mm. Mm.
So it was
Okay.
just, yeah,
Oh my gosh. I don't know
over
where to stop. I can't even stop listening to you, but hey,
and
this is amazing. Sarita, we definitely have to come back on this further of your extension of your life journey, where we could uncover more and more about the transition that you have created for yourself after,
mm,
I mean, going through so much emotional, I mean, physical, I mean, financial, and then the whole, I don't know what you have missed in pain. And no wonder the book that you wrote, or no wonder the subject that you say about
absolutely.
love your pain
Yep.
is amazing. So I wanted to just actually close off here because I think it will be otherwise too much for our listeners as well to listen. But definitely we will come back for the second episode. But before we go, I wanted to just let the listeners know that, we may all think that our pain is bigger or smaller, but here is a live example of a person who has been through this different kinds of pains experiences. And pains is not just physical, pains is not just mental, pains is not just, environmental or domestic. Pain can be anything.
Absolutely.
But who we are talking to today, Sarita, is talking about her journey itself may give many people the sense and the smell of the pain that we all go through in our own way, with our own little pains that we experience. But today, I am so honored to talk to Sarita about her pain and about her journey, this painful journey, I call it. But as if I have to put it in Sarita's language, this is not painful journey. This is what we are born to suffer or born to experience, but not necessarily the way Sarita experiences. But what we can understand from here that even if worse pain like this happens, there is a real person standing in front of us today, Sarita, where she's an author, she's written book, and she wants to help and she wants to coach with this pain. That's the most positive aspect. I take it from here, Sarita, that we all have to still, grief, but then we still have to grow from that grief. We still
Absolutely
suffer.
right.
We suffer, but then we still have to make those sufferings count, and we have to make those sufferings into positive sufferings where we all can experience the positiveness. So, with that note, I wanted to just take this final opportunity to tell Sarita that please give us your final message for this episode until we end. What's your message to the listeners who are listening after listening to this journey and the way you want to portray it or pass on the information? What is your message to all the listeners?
I want to go back right to the start of our conversation,
Mhm.
to the point that I made, that we are all miracles. And
Absolutely.
when we talk about pain,
Mhm.
we don't need to compare to anybody. We all feel differently.
Mhm.
Even if we go through the same situation, I went through a car accident, and even if two people are in the same car and break the left arm at the same time, they're both going to feel the pain differently.
Mhm.
And that's totally okay. You are entitled to feel what you feel, how
Mhm.
you feel, when you feel,
Mhm.
for however long, and you're entitled to ask for help.
Beautiful. With that
Okay.
note, to all the listeners, we all are miracles. So let's consider the pain that we have is also a part of the miracles that we are. And we have
Absolutely.
the power to change
Yes.
pains. Again, that is also a miracle when we change and make those transitions and create our own paths from that. So, with that note,
If you can't see the light at the end of your tunnel, change the tunnel.
wow, beautiful. Very well said, Sarita. Absolutely amazing conversation I had today, and I hope the listeners have enjoyed as well. But
Thank
rather
you.
than more enjoying, because as Sarita puts, pain is also good kind of loving your pain. So that's why I have now become more saying that okay, even if you are suffering, that's not your suffering, that's your loving your sufferings
It's
is
your lessons and it's how you manage it.
how you manage it.
Loving is about managing it. It's about
Excellent.
finding the right tunnel.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. So, listeners, we will see you once again back on this episode. And please write to us and please explain whatever questions you have. Please write to us so that we can ask Sarita to come back with us a good feedback and also give your feedback to us. But also, we will bring Sarita for her next episode, continuing from here where we left. Like, what is her current goals and visions for the humans that we all are listening to her currently. We all can be in the same situation as Sarita, but also let's make the way situation Sarita has managed. This is what the final message has. Ultimately, how we manage is more important. So, with that note, thank you so much, Sarita. I will
Thank you.
definitely once again, and we will continue this beautiful conversation to help most of the humans on this planet.
Thank you so much.
Bye for now. All the
Bye
best.
bye.